You're almost 90 and a half as we speak in this, on this day in 2011, and you're still going to Bishop Street every day. You're still working.
Yeah.
When are you going to quit?
Well, I like to think my kids say, Grandma, when are you going to write your book?
I'm too busy going to work.
Well, it's been a little bit that way, but
Bill Paty fulfilled his boyhood dream of managing a sugar plantation when sugar was king in Hawaii. And that turned out to be just one chapter of his remarkable career. He's lived 9 decades of Hawaii history while devoting himself to taking care of his island home. Meet Bill Paty next on Long Story Short.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox is Hawaii's first weekly television program produced and broadcast in high definition.
Aloha mai kako, I'm Leslie Wilcox. William Woods Paty Jr. grew up in the Nu'uanu district of Oahu in an era when he could ride the streetcar around town and take the train to the North Shore. He graduated from Punahou School 3 years before the Pearl Harbor attack, and 70 years after, he's still working to care for the Hawaii he knew as a kid. In this edition of Long Story Short, we'll learn more about this well-known Kama'aina's life and work. As an Eagle Scout, Ivy League student, World War II paratrooper, plantation manager, Constitutional Convention president, gubernatorial campaign manager, and state land director.
What was Honolulu like when you were growing up?
well, Honolulu has always been a special place, but especially then, pre-war days, before War II, and you know, the streetcars ran, and we walked in and out here and there, and everything was kind of a backed up, not slow motion, but a more gradual way of life, and the opportunity to get around easily at any part of the island was always there, and we just took it for granted what we had in the opportunities to go body surfing at Wakapu and these places. It was a kind of a special time, which you couldn't really ever duplicate again.
What were your hobbies as a kid?
Well, hobby-wise, the natural kind of things. Scouting was involved, and so I'd say hiking, camping, certainly going out and body surfing where you could. I kept pigeons.
And you've been a committed Boy Scout and Eagle Scout.
So I was 14 years old, and today I'm the grand old man I'm the gray eagle of the council.
At that time, what did you aspire to be?
Well, I was always involved with getting into the sugar business, and of course, if you get in there, why, a plantation manager seemed like that's the place to be. And so starting in my high school days, I used to work summer times at the HSB experiment station, and then I got on the plantation summer jobs, and went away to school and took ag, and came back home and signed up with Waialua Sugar, and away we went. I was wired all the way through.
Because sugar and ag in general were our industries then.
Sugar was the economic engine of the territory at the time, and subsequently really the state. You couldn't go very far without getting involved with that. And so it was a natural for someone like myself.
So when you were looking for a college coming out of Punahou, did you look for a college that was good at agriculture?
Well, not necessarily. Well, yes and no. Yale and Cornell and some of these schools had a strong alumni here. And so some of the plantation managers, a couple of them were Cornell guys, and they all got together and prepared a course, 4-year course for me by the subject, so that I had no choice but to move right into it, and got out of it with a BS in agriculture.
And then what was your first job out of college?
Well, the first sugar job I had was assistant agriculturalist, and it was right in line with my training and the kind of job you get when you first come aboard.
We'll catch up with Bill Paty's ag work later in the program. But first, we need to take a detour as he put his career on hold to join the Army during World War II.
Tell us about, for example, landing at Normandy or being a paratrooper right before the D-Day invasion.
Well, I always wanted to get into parachute troops, and right out of ROTC at Cornell, I went down to Fort Benning and qualified and got accepted into parachute troops. We trained our people and went over to England eventually, and early in the year in '44, jumping into D-Day, jumping on D-Day in Normandy was more than a unique experience. We dropped 6 miles further inland than we were supposed to, and then on top of that, we dropped right on top of a German parachute regiment that had been training right in that area.
What happened when you landed?
I ran into a French milkmaid early on. D-Day morning, all this firing's going on. We've had skirmishes all night long from midnight. You could hear the big shells from the Navy cruisers outside, offshore coming in. The Spitfires and all were all over the place. She's milking a cow in the middle of the hedgerow. And I walk over, and I go to give them my best Pinot French. Il y a des, je suis un American officier, il y a des éléments près d'ici. It's supposed to mean where are the Germans around here. She doesn't say anything, milks a cow. And, but she moves her head like this, and I look, and there's a German patrol coming down the road just above us. So I jump up and jump back over the hedgerow. But I think I told my sergeant that I think I'm going to get us a date tonight.
You have a date with a German regiment.
Yeah. But I got wounded subsequently, you know, and I became a POW. And it was a very humbling, frustrating experience for me. One of the worst things that could have happened, that I was taken out of combat by the great men I've been training with all this time, and they going on to combat without me. And I never got over that for many, many years.
What were conditions like for you as a POW?
Nothing's good about being a POW. The Germans, in terms of handling their officers, POWs were more lenient than they were with the enlisted. It could have been worse.
Did you worry that they'd kill you?
No, they were...
Or torture you?
No, we didn't get any treatment like that. But if you try to get away, they don't get very happy about that.
Bill Paty did try to get away 3 times. The first time, German soldiers found him hiding in a French farmer's attic. The second time, he attempted an escape from a German hospital compound.
And what had you been treated for? What was your wound?
I had a Schmeisser bullet in my groin. Oh. It's still there, by the way. And they never took it out. But be that as it may, I decided that we want to try to see if we get out. We went out with the blankets at night, and they had the watchtowers, but the lights didn't go on all the time. And it gets kind of touchy there because you're not sure the light's going to come on. They're going to use the machine gun. So we got over, and it was getting close to dawn by then. So we got it, and we hightailed it off through across the field. And I guess after we'd gone a few miles, we decided we better try to hole up. And so we holed up in a cow shed, and again, a French lady came by, and we gave her our best charming French again. She said, "Man, no, wait, I was going to get help." She come back with 4 Germans and 2 police dogs. So
for that Punahou French...
it didn't work out too well. But it was, we got solitary time for that, you know.
Bill Paty eventually made it home to Hawaii, and after the war ended, he picked up where he had left off in his plantation career. Soon after starting as an ag assistant at Waialua Sugar, Paty received a promotion, prompted by the sugar strike of 1946.
The big unionization, the first strike of the sugar industry with the ILWU. Manager them was a guy named John Midkiff. He said, "Hey, I got a job for you. I can make you industrial relations director." That's a job that's in human resources today. But it was interesting. I couldn't have done without it, and looking back on it. You had a very militant union, as it turned out. Both sides, the management and the union, knew how to get along with each other after all these years and years of having the manager calling the shots. It was an experience that served me well down the road, because you learned how to work with people who had strongly different opinions of what should be done.
And you felt comfortable with pretty much whoever you talked with. I live in Waialua, and I know from families in the area that you were the big cheese guy who always knew the names of all the kids and the grandkids and always asked about how somebody was doing. You knew people as people.
Well, I like to think so. You could not be in that country situation and not be surrounded by so many good people. And then their kids, and you're involved with the Little League and the Pop Warner and the churches. They're all good, wonderful people. And if you weren't comfortable and happy in that kind of environment in Hawaii, I don't know what did ever happen to you. That was a special time.
Who did you have oversight of?
Well, we had everybody on the plantation.
What was your management style?
I like to think I was a pretty good listener. Also, you got to be able to listen. Well, sure you do, but it's how you listen. You pretend to be sincere and nod away and all that kind of thing, but they have a sense, people have a sense when you really want to hear what their thinking is beyond what you think they think. If that's a style, I don't know if it's a style necessarily, but you're certainly not going very far down the road unless the people that you're talking with who don't share your viewpoints have a feeling that you are willing to hear what they are really thinking, not just on the surface, but down below.
It's fascinating to me that people in Waialua, where the plantations shut down, was it 95 or so, 1995, still refer to where they live as I live in Mill Camp, I'm in Ranch Camp, I'm in Haole Camp.
Yeah, that's the designation of where you're from.
So how were they divided up? Was it mostly ethnicity?
Yes and no. They say people say they divided the people by nationality, more because they were more comfortable with each other living next door to people that you had been raised with and knew the customs. But it was, however, the way you determine somebody. He used to live in Ranch Camp a long time,
It was a long time coming, the end of sugar in Hawaii. How did you feel when Waialua Plantation closed?
I had a heartache on the thing. I saw it coming. We knew it was coming. But you just kind of feel, gee, how fortunate we were to have that time in our lives when we had such a wonderful cohesion of opportunity in the agriculture and using those lands and the people coming together, living together, playing together, never again to be repeated or duplicated in any way. So that we were just darn fortunate to be able to have that, so that while there was I hated to see it go, but you know it's somebody's going to graduate someday, and so the sugar shutting down was kind of in the cards.
You decided to leave the sugar industry in 1984, I believe?
Well, I really didn't decide. Actually, I became 65, and they didn't want me to stay any longer. So that was the reason I left, although I had been moved into a diversified arena that Cass and Cook was trying to develop. And so as a result of that, my retirement age came upon me. And so that was the reason I really left.
Bill Paty may have been ready for retirement in his employer's estimation, but not his own. In fact, his next career in politics and government was already well underway before he left Castle and Cook. 6 years earlier, he had presided over the historic State Constitutional Convention, a proving ground for future Hawaii leaders.
Let's talk about the 1978 Constitutional Convention. You're still working at Waialua Sugar, but you took time out and ran for office.
I took time out, ran for office, yeah. Then went back and went back into the sugar business. But that 78 Con was a marvelous opportunity again for me in terms of all the things that went into it. And as it turned out, even though the union was not supporting me, I pulled a pretty strong vote.
There were a lot of non-legislator, non-experienced politicians in the Con.
They had only, of 102, only 4 had held previous elective office, period. But taking 102 people, most of them with no real legislative background, except the very few that were elected, and say, hey, we want you to look at the state constitution, get yourself organized, develop the rules, develop committees, get the hearings going, and come up with recommendations all in terms of 60 actual working days. The social dynamics of that by itself were highly exceptional in terms of the job that we wanted to accomplish. But we managed to do it. We brought it out in the end with 34 amendments we proposed to the general public, and they all were approved. But it was not without a great deal of frustration and confrontation, which we could have done without, but nonetheless, that went with it.
It went with it.
Yeah.
Now, how much did your experience dealing with diverse interests on a sugar plantation help you in this job?
Because I had been playing sugar politics, if you want to call it that, for a long time, because in '54, when the Democrats took over, the entrenched Republican business community suddenly had to shift gears and play on their side of the fence, the Democratic side of the fence. So when we got into the con, these were people I knew and people understood me, and so I didn't come in as a brash plantation manager trying to push his way around. So that was kind of the way things worked out.
Could have worked against you having baggage, but you must have acquitted yourself well as an individual.
Yeah, I tried to tell them. I remember standing up in front of the group and say, look, I've got too much mileage on me to be beholden to anybody. Well, they didn't all buy that, but that was my thrust in the thing, and it was true. I'd been down the road with the city and county. I knew the legislators thing, and most of them kind of felt that I had the opportunity to be about as fair and balanced as they could find.
There hasn't been another con since 1978.
I recognized that the con was kind of special in terms of its influence on the long-term structure of our state and the management of our resources, the fiscal responsibilities that we have today. But at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that the Constitution is a living document, and in terms of the passage of time, in terms of where people are, it should be perhaps hauled out of the garage and washed up and let's take a look at this car again and see how it's running. And I can't argue that. At the same time, there's a group that just says, leave well enough alone. If you bring a new group in there, no telling what they'll do.
Yeah, how they'll fix it.
How they'll fix it.
6 years after the Constitutional Convention, when Bill Paty reached the retirement age at Castle and Cook, he had his eye on the top job at the Hawaii Sugar Planters Association. But, as luck would have it, another political opportunity presented itself.
But about that time, John Waihee also decided that he was going to run for governor, and came by and asked me if I'd join his team. And I got induced to chair his campaign. We were long-time associates by reason of being in the con together, and I had appreciation for his ability to do things in the long lines that I'd like to see done. And we had never had an elected Hawaiian as a governor, and that I thought, gee whiz, this might be a strong opportunity, so I came aboard. And John Waihee was I say, he was a natural campaigner. He was a friendly, outgoing, bright, and so he was easy to campaign with, and you could put him on some of these tough issues, and he came out very, very sound positions on them, and people began to come in and behind it, and in the end, we were able to pull it off.
And you were appointed head of Department of Land and Natural Resources, which is one of the most challenging departments the state has.
Yes,
Land and water.
Yes, it was. Land and water and all the natural resources, the parks and the fisheries. And it was a great, grand, frustrating in many ways opportunity. But I must say we were fortunate. For the most part, we had money. And I feel that today it's a tough ticket when you don't have the funding to do the kind of work that needs to be done to improve and maintain our natural resources. Nothing usually came in your direction that didn't have someone who was very vocal and firm, and the water issues on one side and the fisheries on the other. And
That's right. We talk about consensus. We're such a diverse society that there's always going to be 2 or 3 or 4 forces coming at you that don't agree with something that otherwise has a following. So how do you move forward?
Well, I think at some point you just got to say, hey, we've given this our best thought. We put as much concern into it as we have. We have to make a decision. Much as I don't like to, we have to agree to disagree. And you go from there.
And along the way, you married Peg, your high school sweetheart, had 5 children. What kind of life lessons are the ones that proved most important to you?
I think having fun with your family and with your friends. Your memories are made of the good times for the most part. Giving thanks for having the opportunity to live and raise a family in this marvelous place we call Hawaii. We're privileged to be there. Everything that you've done in the past and so on all comes together in terms of your ohana. And we've been fortunate to have a good, strong ohana and have fun in the process. But again, feeling comfortable that your contributions along the way have maybe given a little bit of edge to making Hawaii a better place in which to live.
Interesting, because your life is defined by hard work with long hours, but what you say is the important thing is the fun.
Yeah, everything is relative, but if you don't appreciate and understand and take advantage of the great opportunity the Lord has given us, all the people around us afforded us, the friendships we've known, you're just missing some of the greatest things in life.
What do you think life's going to be like for your greats?
I like to think that the essence of what we have in Hawaii will always be there. It's going to continue to be a special place. It's going to continue to be like no other place in the world. It's going to continue to be important to all of us that we manage and maintain our resources. But it's important that we as people in this blessed place come together when it is necessary to maintain what's so precious and so important about this place that we have here in Hawaii.
You're almost 90 and a half as we speak in this, on this day in 2011, and you're still going to Bishop Street every day. You're still working.
Yeah.
When are you going to quit?
Well, I like to think my kids say, Grandma, when are you going to write your book?
I'm too busy going to work.
Well, it's been a little bit that way, but my regret in some ways is that I don't have time to follow up with good friends. I get a note here or email there. I don't follow up. And there's so many wonderful friendships that have collected dust. That's something I'd like to see if I couldn't, in the time remaining, do a better job of taking the little shoe polish and walk around and say hi.
Well, that's a very nice wish. You've mentioned several times in the time remaining. Are you? I know you're in good health. I mean, you're driving around town and you swim. But do you have a sense of time telescoping on you?
Yes, it'd be silly or foolish if you didn't. There's so many opportunities you have for leaving tomorrow, for whatever happens to people at 90 or whatever. It compresses their feeling in terms of what you think you might be able to do and what else should I try to do.
What do you think is your legacy, if you have to say one, that has the longest legs or the biggest legs?
I would think possibly the conservancy and the management of our natural resources that keep our state in balance in terms of all the things that make us special, the ocean, the fisheries, the flora, fauna, the whole thing, I think. Trying to make sure that the lands that we have are properly maintained to the extent that we can, that we continue to try to see that changes that take place in terms of the land utilization remain under control, and that we don't just become another mecca for a quick vacation fix or another condo type thing. If they can't go to a lot of the places in the world today, why they may come back to Hawaii, and Hawaii is going to be, I think, more and more attractive as a place to be and to recreate and if they possibly to live.
So when I asked you what would be your greatest legacy, I guess I was thinking of a position or a job, but what you did was you picked a theme that has run through almost all of your career. I mean, from plantation manager on through.
I think that's true. I think it's a river wandering down there, but it's always the same river. So whether you're really successful at it or not, but having had the opportunity to work with it and have some influence on it, can't help but hopefully be a positive factor in the long range, what makes Hawaii special.
In 1992, Bill Paty became a trustee of the Mark A. Robinson Trust, and nearly 20 years later, in 2011, he continues in that job managing trust assets while also volunteering his time with nonprofit organizations. At age 90, Bill is at least contemplating the idea of slowing down to spend more time with family. In the meantime, Bill Paty continues to build on his legacy of preserving the lands he's loved for so long for future generations. For Long Story Short and PBS Hawaii, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Ahui ho kako.
For audio and written transcripts of this program and all episodes of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, visit pbshawaii.org.
I want to try to be sure that such time is available. I would not want to go down the wrong road feeling that I had overlooked it.
Do you feel like that sometimes?
Yes, I feel that I'm too busy trying to do all these things that take care of the Army here and cover legislative requests and go to a charity performance, let the Boy Scouts come over here and all the rest. And they say, hey, come on, Bill, you served your time. Kick back, enjoy.